folks. Good afternoon. It's a beautiful day right now. Just taking a break. Just finished my last errand. So, a few weeks ago, I was taking one of my classes, and one of the discussion we had was ethical determination and value. The question was, is due process in our nation reflective of our social situation at hand? In the line of work I do, due process is part of the aspect that is presented to us when we do our job. We have to think about due process, and it's something that every individual who works on certain cases have to think about. For many Americans, the idea of due process is something that is based on criminal acts and the law within the criminal justice system. But due process is every aspect. That includes billing. When it comes to due process of bills you owe in many establishments, there's due process for that too. But the due process I'm talking about is something that is presented to us in my classes. Many Americans do not understand what due process is really about. They have heard it, and I know, and it's something I laugh about it. When I ask people about due process, they think about it based on what they hear on TV. But they don't understand, even know what due process is. And a lot of times, these individuals have gone through due process, but they don't know they did because they don't read the documentation that they receive. Many establishments and many processes, they explain there is due process. And sometimes I've seen it, people don't read it and they lose their chance for due process, and they let situations come up and they're thinking, what the heck happened? Why didn't they warn me or whatever? And when I read their information, I said, you were given due process. And that's the situation we're in the United States. The question I have asked a lot of people, do you understand what due process is? Do you understand what legal aspect due process provide for every individual, no matter whatever it is? You are given due process to a lot of degree. That's something that is present in contracts in some cases, in some agreements that's set aside when you sign for these agreements. But the due process that many people seem to understand is just based on criminal justice. Due process covers everything, like I said, tort law, any libel type of laws, things like that. But the main question I had to ask a few days ago was, do people really understand what is presented in due process? Because I've heard so many reasons and points, and it's not reflective, and it's becoming an issue because a lot of people can't afford lawyers and legal advice, and a lot of people don't even read these documentation, and they're offered due process, but because they don't understand what's going on, they sign their due process away, limiting them a voice on what's going to happen. So have any of you guys ever had to go to a situation where due process was presented and you didn't realize you were given that opportunity and you messed up or something happened and that process was taken away? That has happened so many times, and I feel that it's something a lot of people need to talk about. Due process is not only in criminal cases. Like I said, it's in many contracts, in many agreements, and many even documentation, both financial and non-financial, that is important for people to really reflect on and understand before they sign or even agree on any situation. So, have you guys ever gotten any have you been in a situation where due process was present and you didn't understand, and it again, you walked away, or you did something and you finally realized due process was provided, but you didn't take the lead? So, how do you feel? Is due process something that a lot of Americans have to understand exist? And are we really limited in the understanding of due process? And it's really affecting a lot of Americans, because the last few days, people have been talking about due process when it comes to criminal law, but no one talks about due process in general, in every aspect of within our lives, in contracts and in many agreements, and even in many letters in reference to your right to voice a challenge. That's something people don't seem to understand. So, what do you think? Is due process an issue that we as a community and society need to learn and need to understand? So, for now, take care, stay safe, and of course, have a nice day.